You have to be
Those
consistent.
Okay, so my issue is that those are completely different situations, and I've noticed this a lot in this debate and in the last debate that we had, where you'll take this
That's
extreme,
how you make
completely
arguments.
different position, and you'll try to act like it's some kind of
Compare it to other
comparison or something,
situations.
or like you're trying to pull up an
No,
analogy.
it's
but
that when you
really,
put it into a situation that's not as optically appealing, you realize that logic doesn't really hold up.
listen,
Yeah.
man, I'm not
This is
racist. I love black people. Like, what do you want me to say, dude?
So what you're doing right now is the same thing that anti-vaxxers and conspiracy theorists in general do, which is weaponizing your own ignorance. You don't know, I don't know, every reason why they don't want to release these papers. I don't know what they're redacting. But what you're doing is you're saying, I don't know, therefore I actually do know, and it's something scary and bad. So, first of all, starting this off with a 2v1, this is going to be kind of fun. We have the reasonable realist here returning after the reception to your first debate was not very positive. I messaged you, said, hey.
Well, I mean, it was your audience, so I didn't really expect them to be very positively receptive to it.
Yeah, but my audience is not too bad. They usually are able to recognize if like a point was made or if I didn't make a good point, because I got a couple comments saying that I didn't do that great either, but the reception was pretty bad. Most people seem to say that you had to know about the vaccine if you're going to really accurately talk about the vaccine mandates. That's what people seem to say. So anyway, whatever. I hit you up, told you to come back on the stream if you want to, and to reclaim your name, basically. Of course, being a little inflammatory there. And then Super Alpha, I invited you on the stream because you commented, and I quote, Hunter Avallone, debate someone smarter than you about this. You look like my age, so I have no problem telling you the truth. And what's going on? Yes. You have the pseudo-intellectuals and academia on your side, but just watch me bring facts to you from the investor and banking finance world you're not ready for. I'll make you cry. So this should be really interesting. I've never cried on stream before. Maybe today will be first. But yeah, do you guys want to, I guess, kick it off? Or do you guys, I know you're kind of teaming up here. You have sort of the same position.
I really don't want to talk about mandates.
What did you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk about the regulatory capture of coronavirus and the vaccine and the profit that was made and the investors and the developers as well.
Okay, so
as much as I didn't do as much research as I would have liked to.
Okay.
But I call it Scamarona. And
Scamarona?
Yeah. It's a giant scam.
Okay, let me get my fucking notes out for this. That's a new one. So, oh wait, you know what? I should probably not be deleting my notes that I need here. Hold on.
Yeah, so just so both of you know, pretty much all of the research that I did was in terms of mandates. So I'm not really prepared to talk about like Corona itself.
But are you prepared to talk about the vaccine now?
No, I'm still looking to talk about the mandates, but I did some more research onto it, and there were a couple points that you made last time that I was hoping that I could kind of better counter, because I actually did some looking into it and like the definitions of things. So
okay, well, I have a feeling we're going to end up getting into a conversation still about the vaccine. So wait, I'm pretty sure I told you that in the DMs, right? I was like, yo, you're going to probably have to look up the vaccine shit.
No, you didn't specifically say the vaccine. You just said to do more research, because last time I just kind of wung it. I didn't really come in with anything because I thought we were going to be specifically talking about the mandates. So I thought that was more of an opinionated thing.
I literally said, you got to know why it's bad to mandate the vaccine. Look some stuff up about the vaccine. It's necessary to really dig into why you think it's authoritarian.
Yeah, so I did dig into why I think the mandating vaccines is authoritarian. That's what I'm saying. I just didn't dig into the vaccine itself.
Okay, so are you still sticking then to that the mandates are authoritarian?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's start with that then, and then Alpha will move to you. So why are mandates authoritarian? I would like, by the way, to read a little bit of a definition here. Because we need to define authoritarian. It can't just be government says no, therefore it's authority. It's got to be like an actual definition.
Listen. So I did find a definition of it, and it's actually very different from the definition that you gave me last time. So last time the definition you said was it's something that goes against like the Constitution or the legal system. So what I found, the definition that I found when I went researching it today was from Cambridge Dictionary. And the definition is authoritarian adjective, demanding that people obey completely and refusing to allow them freedom to act as they wish. So that says nothing about the problem. No, that's the legal system.
Wait, so I already noticed the problem. You're defining authoritarianism in general, because by that definition, literally seatbelt laws would be authoritarian. What we need to, I think where we were getting mixed up is authoritarian broadly, and then authoritarian government. So I looked up define authoritarian government, and this is from Britannica, which I believe is a online encyclopedia. It says authoritarianism, principle of blind submission to authority, as opposed to individual freedom of thought and action. In government, authoritarianism denotes any political system that concentrates power in the hands of hands of a leader or a small elite that is not constitutionally responsible to the body of the people. Authoritarian leaders often exercise power arbitrarily and without regard to existing bodies of law, and they usually cannot be replaced by citizens choosing freely among various competitors in elections. So I think...
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes, but really, just before you do, I just want to summarize really quick. I think we were having the mix-up because you're defining authoritarian. I'm talking about the government being authoritarian by the standards and definition of authoritarian government.
But you are defining an authoritarian government. So why is it called an authoritarian government? Like that word comes from the same root. That's an adjective to describe what the government is.
No, because your definition would literally account. The definition that you gave me for authoritarianism would unironically account for drunk driving laws, for seatbelts. Like, if you're saying,
I don't know. Like, do you want a better definition?
Can you read me the definition again?
Dictionary. So, demanding that people obey completely and refusing to allow them freedom to act as they wish. So that's from Cambridge Dictionary. So I don't know. Do you want me to look up a better definition or something?
Because we're not talking about
it's not just coming from my head.
Well, I understand that. The problem is that you're saying this policy of mandating is authoritarian. So what that implies to me is that there is some kind of authoritarianism, some kind of a nature of authoritarianism that is occurring in the government, since they are the ones who are making these mandates. The problem is the definition that you just gave me, that you've been reading from Cambridge, is too broad. We're talking about authoritarian governments, not just the word authoritarian, because again, by your logic, it would be authoritarian for the government to say, you cannot go outside with a bazooka and start shooting at random citizens. That would be authoritarian.
Hold on. Let me just interject 1 second. So I'm not calling the government itself by nature authoritarian. I mean, that's a whole separate argument that you could get into, but it really has nothing to do with what I was saying. I was calling their specific actions in regards to mandating COVID vaccines. I was saying that is authoritarian, an authoritarian action from the government. So I'm not discussing the actual nature of the government. I'm just talking about an action that they're taking.
Okay, then why don't you just use a different argument? Maybe the argument you're looking for is like coercive, or different word. Maybe the word you're looking for is coercive, because technically you have a choice to either stay home or get the vaccine, but you can't really function properly in society if you don't get the vaccine. So do you really have a choice? That's more in line with maybe coercion.
Oh yeah, that's part of the point that I was making. That's part of why I'm opposed to it.
Then you should have said it's coercive, because no, I'm steel manning your argument, because authoritarianism is a different thing. And when you read me the definition of authoritarianism, and it's that broad, that accounts for any time the government says you can't do something that the citizen wants to do. That means laws are authoritarian based on the definition you gave me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't defining authoritarianism. It was defining specifically authoritarian. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but yeah, I don't know. I guess do you want me to like look for a different definition? Because
no, I want you to stop saying it's authoritarian, because it's not.
What word would you use to describe it?
if I was taking your position, probably coercive.
Yes, if you were,
it's coercive.
Okay, coercive. So define. Let's like, what is your your personal definition of what coercive means?
I'm not going to give you my personal one. I'm just going to read you one. The practice of persuading someone to do something by using force or threats. So you are threatened with either losing your job, not going outside, not being able to participate in the public square, not going to a party. That is the threat for you not doing something. And by threatening that, making that exist, it's working to persuade people. I mean, because of the mandates and restrictions, we're actually seeing, or we did anyway, see a pretty big uptick in people getting vaccinated. So if the word you came in was, this is a little coercive, I'd say, okay, cool. Then let's talk about it. But when you say authoritarian, you either are saying authoritarianism as far as the government, or, again, the definitions you keep giving me of authoritarian would account for any time the government restricts anything.
I mean, I think authoritarian has a little bit more of a negative connotation than saying just coercive.
I don't think so.
Which is
if you coerce someone into sex, that's like sounds really bad.
I mean, I guess so, but I think authoritarian is like more negative. Like when you think authoritarian, you immediately think like dictatorship or like government overreach or something. When you hear coercive, I think like somebody's maybe being persuaded like to do something, or something's like
that's more in line with what's happening with the vaccine thing. That's a better definition. It's more encompassing.
That's a fair position to take. It's just my issue is that like that's still not something that I agree with. You can go all day defining terms like authoritarian, coercive. You can talk about the definitions of things all day, but it's still not something that I'm in favor of, no matter how you put it, no matter what words you use to describe it. I just think what they're doing is wrong.
I'm not saying that if we change the definition, all of a sudden you're going to actually be A-okay with it. I know you're not okay with it. The problem is that the definition of the word is important. That plays a pretty big role in actually elucidating your overall point. I mean, this is like some basics. Obviously, the definition of the word matters. If I say somebody is drunk driving and I think that they are, I don't know, an evil rapist, and you say, well, wait, why the fuck are they an evil rapist? And I say, oh, I just mean that they're really bad for drunk driving. I still am against them drunk driving. Like, okay, sure, but the fucking word you use to describe that matters.
Yeah, but what huge difference does it make between defining it as authoritarian and defining it as coercive? They're still bad things. They're still negative things. How does that affect your argument?
You realize I'm helping you right now, right?
No.
When you say it's authoritarian, I can debunk your argument very easily. When you say it's coercive, because it's at least slightly more accurate, we can then actually talk about the nature of, is it coercive? Is it justified coercion? And then we can actually get somewhere to the argument.
Okay, so I don't think you really debunked my argument, but we can, for the sake of not going around in circles for like half an hour, we can agree to call it coercive instead of authoritarian if that's what you would want. So we can
mandates coercive. Okay.
Technically,
but that's still they're still bad in my because by your own admission, coercion is bad. So
not necessarily. That's where we're going to get into the conversation.
That's what I was saying that it can be used in situations to describe something that is bad that is happening.
Yes.
But you were saying that it was more of a negative term just from the get-go, and I was saying authoritarian is probably a stronger term to describe something that's negative.
That's not what happened. You said you said coercion is always, or coercion doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, or you said something like that, and I said it can be used in a really bad context if someone's coerced into sex. Hold on, wait, just stop for a minute, because we're going in circles already. 12 minutes. We've been doing nothing but having like a semantics circular argument. I'm helping you. I promise you, I'm helping you by telling you the word you're looking for here is coercive, because I can easily debunk the argument when you say it's authoritarian.
You haven't debunked it.
I did. Your definition of authoritarian.
Because according to the definition.
Okay, so is the government saying that you cannot drunk drive
completely and refusing to allow them freedom to act as they wish?
Wait. Yes. What if I wish to act in a way?
We're just gonna go in circles.
No, we're not. I don't care if we're gonna go in circles, because you're like being stubborn. You're refusing to acknowledge the fact that your argument is deeply flawed. If I wish,
it's not deeply flawed.
Yes, it is. Hold on,
we have a disagreement on one word that I'm using to describe my argument. That's not like a deeply flawed or deeply ingrained.
It is a flaw
problem
because
if you negative terms, they both justify my.
I literally have 3 yes or no questions, and then you'll understand hopefully why the fuck this is a super shitty argument. What if somebody wishes to drive drunk. They wish to
wanna-
do that
I'm
thing.
not talking about drunk
Wait,
driving. We're talking
stop.
about vaccine mandates.
Stop. And then the government says you cannot drive drunk. That is now the government stopping people from doing what they wish to do, which by the definition you gave me is authoritarianism.
It is.
Okay, so
then
stopping
is the
somebody from
government
doing-
when the government says you cannot drunk drive, this is a yes or no question, is that authoritarian?
So when you bring up the drunk driving thing, and this is the thing that I said the entire debate that we had last time. You're talking about forcing somebody not to do something, which is different from forcing somebody to do something.
No, that's not in your definition.
Somebody brought this up in the
That was
comments
not
of
in your
video.
definition. That
That's
wasn't
a
in your
different.
That was not in your definition. Your
But those
definition
are
of authority.
different things. So when you bring up the drunk driving thing, that's a completely different discussion. So we can't even compare those things because that's something that I haven't really fully formulated my thoughts on, and it's completely different from the vaccine mandate, which was the original source of our discussion.
Okay, hold on one second, sir. Okay, so do you want to read the Cambridge definition again? Because I
Yes, I will read it.
this is a
I
very
will read the
semantics and a
Cambridge
bit
definition one more
annoying
time.
argument. Okay, read it to me again.
Okay. Demanding that people obey completely and refusing to allow them freedom to act as they wish. Now, don't compare.
That has nothing to do with whether or not it's telling you that you can or cannot do something. It's about deterring somebody from doing something that they wish.
It doesn't. But I'm just pointing out that when you bring up the drunk driving comparison, that's a completely different situation, and that can't even be compared to vaccine mandates remotely. Because it's completely different. So I'm
getting
just
really
saying
frustrated because you're just not getting it. This is so obvious.
The reason why I pivoted to that point is because you brought up the drunk driving scenario to begin with.
So let me explain. I'm sorry, chat. We're literally not going to get through this until we are able to come to some kind of an understanding here. This is as if I came up and I said, hey, I have a definition of a human. And you said, okay, what's your definition of human? And I said, something that stands. Something that's tall. Okay, well, that could account for a tree, because trees technically are standing and they're tall. A tree isn't a human, though. No, but that's a different situation. You know, we're not talking about...
No.
It's when your definition is able to encompass... Hold on, wait.
That I pivoted, but the reason
your definition encompasses things that don't fit that definition.
You brought up the drunk driving position, and I have to attack that because that has nothing to do with the vaccine mandates. That's a completely different thing that you're discussing, and forcing somebody to not do something is very different than forcing someone to put something in their body.
Alpha, do you understand the point I'm trying to make here?
Those are two completely different things, which is why I pivoted to that and started talking about this other thing.
The fact that they're different doesn't matter. It's the problem.
How does it not matter?
Because the problem is that your definition encompasses things that are not that thing. So your definition is too broad. It's not specific enough to actually pinpoint or use that definition.
So do you want to use the word coercive? We can use the word coercive.
I want to know if you genuinely think that the government restricting drunk driving is authoritarian. Because based on the definition...
No, I'm not going to answer
You can't say it's different.
Because I haven't formulated my thoughts on drunk driving. We're here to talk about vaccine mandates.
Buddy,
that's a
you need to answer this
point.
question or this conversation is going to be unable to move forward.
Okay.
You need to answer the question. Do you think the government deterring somebody from doing what they wish in regards to drunk driving is authoritarian?
I'm not going to answer that, Hunter. You know why? Because that's a trap question.
It's not. No, it's not a trap. It's the fact that you're
absolutely a trap question. You're trying to find pit holes in my argument.
Wait. First of all, yes, it's a debate. That's what we're both supposed to do. Second of all, the trap is not a trap. You don't want to answer that question because you realize...
It's completely unrelated. It has absolutely nothing to do with the conversation.
You realize that answering that question debunks your definition of authoritarianism.
Well, let's use the word coercive. I specifically said just like 5 seconds ago, we can use that if you want. We don't have to use the word authoritarian if you're going to nitpick about it that much. I mean, come on. But
this is not a nitpick. These are words that mean different things.
By your own definition, they're both negative terms, though, so they both support my argument.
They are not necessarily negative. if
Why
you're
are we
going to say that the
nitpicking difference
government,
between these terms?
if you're going to say that, you know what, yeah, based on a broad definition of authoritarian, then yeah, anytime the government puts forward virtually any laws that stop people from doing anything, then that is authoritarian.
I thought we were gonna use the word coercive.
Or
I thought we were
coercive, then we
switching.
would still have the same conversation of, okay, well, is there such a thing as having a moral form of coercion? Is there such a thing as having a moral form of authoritarian?
Said, like 2 minutes ago, you literally said that coercive is an inherently negative term. And
I
that's
did not
something
say
that
it was
I disagree with
inherently.
you on.
No, I did not say it was inherently negative. You said that it couldn't be used or it wasn't as negative, and I gave you an example of a way that it could be used negative. You're the one saying authoritarian is only negative.
I think authoritarian is only negative. I think but I think they're both. Okay, so I think authoritarian is more negative of a term, but I think they're both probably terms that lean negative. So you would probably use them for the most part only in describing negative situations.
Okay. You're once again pointing out the flaws with your definition, but we've been talking about this now for 20 minutes. So
Can
why don't we
we-
just
do we
move on?
have
We'll
to-
just
can we
use
move
the
on for
code.
definitions.
Well, I guess, yeah, for the sake of the fucking debate, but I mean, like, you're not capable of, like, wrapping your mind around this very basic thing. So, fine, we'll use the word coercive, even
Okay,
if you don't actually
Hunter,
agree with
Hunter,
that, and then we'll
can you
go
make me a-
forward.
Can you make me a promise?
I
Actually,
guess.
I'm not going to ask you to make me a promise. Just don't bring up drunk driving for the rest of this debate. Please,
No, I'm
because it has
going to. You
absolutely
don't want the
nothing to do
comparison
with the
because it
conversation.
shows the flaws with your shit.
What? It's a completely different thing, though. There is no comparison.
There is.
It's like.
Why don't we listen to what
Dude.
Alpha? Why don't you chime in?
Okay.
Because
go
you're
ahead,
on
Alpha.
this guy's side, so why don't you give your opinion here on this?
This is a really stupid debate. Yeah, mandating seatbelts is authoritarianism, technically, and making anyone do anything or stopping them from doing what they want, I guess, would be considered authoritarian. Now, it's just, what do you want for society? Is a virus, does it have a 99% death rate or does it have a 1% death rate? And I'm sure if it had a 99% death rate, there would be no discussion and we would all be fighting for the vaccines.
Okay. So, yeah, I feel like you're at least willing to admit that if we're going to use a broad definition of authoritarian, then, yeah, laws are technically authoritarian, but we would probably agree that some of those laws are a positive form of authoritarianism because
So
for
I
a
guess-
society
I
to
guess, like-
function, certain behavior needs to be restricted.
So I guess like my question is where you would draw the line with that. Because like if you're saying that all laws are authoritarian, can some laws be more authoritarian than others, or can some laws be worse? Even if
Absolutely.
It's what's
well, no,
best for
of course, some laws can be
what's
worse.
best for an
But,
individual. Sometimes those two things can differ, and sometimes the group does something that isn't best for the group, but they think it is. So
Sure, exactly. So, and that's why we would then have to get into the definition of authoritarianism in the form of government, which is then, by the way, realist, why I brought up before that it's usually a usurping the legal process to give yourself full control, dictatorial power, and then moving forward there. But again, we don't need to go into that. Let's just start here then. All right.
wait, can I say one thing about that point, and then we can move on? I don't want to do like back and forth on it. I just want to say one thing.
Okay.
So like last time when you were talking about this last time, and what I was saying in response to that, I just want to make sure I clarify myself because I don't want to come across as like or as unclear about what I was trying to communicate with this.
Okay.
So the reason I was saying that I was saying it's authoritarian for like a figure in government to use the legal system to elevate them to a status that the legal system no longer affects them.
Sure.
So you were saying that
That could
laws
be
they pass
authoritarian as well.
after that are authoritarian, but I was saying that the process itself is authoritarian because they're seizing control.
Well, in that case, they would have used the system for a while until they were given power to then usurp the system. So that's why I brought up the example of Adolf Hitler, who was elected in and then signed certain bills, which eventually led to him having dictatorial control, which then allowed him to usurp the legal process. So sure, you can game the system, but again, we'd have to go right back to what I said in the last debate, which is that there's no gaining of power that the government has gained from this. There's no power the government has gained from vaccine mandates. They already had this power.
Okay.
Okay, so why do you think that the vaccine shouldn't be mandated? Alpha, why don't you go first? Or you know what? Even better. Before we get back to you, Realist, Alpha, why don't you tell me why you think the COVID thing is a fucking scam?
Because of investors. They're really quiet. They were really quiet about what was happening, and there's people that made a lot of money also on this. Just because you make money doesn't mean it's a scam. But also, the suppression of ivermectin and vitamin D. I can give you the ivermectin. Like, you can say it's not effective, but vitamin D, it's a vitamin, and 80% of Americans lack it. We're all low on it. We should all go outside more. And suppressing that information when vitamin D has a special function in the lungs to protect them,
Wait.
I think that's very dangerous.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. To interrupt there. Okay.
It was specifically Gavi. It was a vaccine institution. You can type in Gavi in Google.
I don't really actually.
And
The argument you just made already contradicts itself. So you're
but
saying, one, that this is a scam, partially, maybe not entirely, but partially because there's money that's being made, most likely by pharmaceutical companies, by investors, to basically benefit financially from this quote unquote plandemic, right? But you also brought up ivermectin. Would it not make sense by your standards for the company, the pharmaceutical company that made ivermectin, to say that their medicine does work for COVID? Because that would make them
yeah,
more money.
because
They said that, but
because
hold on, wait. Just before you respond, I just need to make my argument clear. They did the opposite. The company that manufactures and makes ivermectin said, our medicine doesn't fucking work in regards to curing COVID. So if it's a scam, if the pharmaceutical companies all want their big bucks, why would the pharmaceutical company act in a way that was completely contrary to that?
that's an
Wait, can
excellent
can I can
question.
I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say, is that something they have a legal obligation to say? Like a disclaimer that they have to use because of like, I don't know. Like I don't know. I'm just asking.
No, technically the company that made ivermectin, I didn't think they had a legal thing, but the ones that paid for the advertisements to cover up, like the reports that it was safe and effective and it was useful for COVID, that might be a legal issue right there.
What
But I'm
report
not
was
entirely
covered
sure.
up?
Okay.
Because I've read
Um,
several reports and all of them showed that it wasn't
oh
helpful.
yeah, they said it wasn't helpful because it's a generic medication. It's actually been around for 50 years. We have 50 years of data on
I don't
ivermectin,
care. I don't care.
and
This
it's
is
safer
irrelevant.
than aspirin. So what? Since it's generic medication, they can't make money on it because any company can go ahead and make it. You
Okay,
can make
wait,
it in
stop,
Mexico.
stop.
You
Please
can make
stop.
it.
You're making assertions that have nothing to do with anything. I know if it's a
No,
generic,
it
then more.
matters
Hold
because
on,
you
wait.
can
If
make
it's
money on it.
generic, yes, more companies can make it. All this, that, and the other thing, fine. And also, ivermectin is effective. You're right for helping people get rid of worms. Sure. The
And
question
viruses as
is
well.
whether or not it helps in regards to COVID specifically. Where are the
I'll give you that one. It's not helpful. Let's pretend it's not helpful. I can give you that one. Vitamin D, you can't argue against that one.
vitamin
It's a
D
vitamin.
has not been suppressed.
Yes, it was.
Wait, people generally have an
I don't,
understanding that yes, vitamin D is a
people,
benefit. Where's a report that showed that vitamin D was a good treatment for COVID, and where was that suppressed?
it helps your immune system, which helps you fight COVID. And there were studies out there that were taken down. There were YouTubers talking about it when COVID was just starting before the vaccine came out.
Okay,
And
so a
yeah,
stronger immune system, but okay, that's fine. I'm not even doubting that. I know that there are a lot of benefits for vitamin D. I mean, I struggle with depression, and I've read myself how vitamin D can be a really big benefit there. But where's the evidence that this helps with COVID?
um,
And then where's the evidence that it was suppressed?
okay. I can get that for you, but I can tell you what I know, but I know it's out there and I can get it for you.
Well, so far you don't know
If you
much.
ever seen the Dark Horse podcast, they got videos taken down.
Well,
They were suppressed
I
and
have not heard
censored.
of them, but I'd be willing to bet that they most likely got videos taken down for spreading misinformation, not because they were actually giving the truth. But that's
Well,
just my guess.
yeah, they're really
Uh,
boring to listen to. So they're like evolutionary biologists. Um,
I don't care about any of
okay,
this. You need to tell me, generally, what do you remember of some report that showed that vitamin D is super good at stopping COVID, and then the big, scary pharmaceutical people came in and suppressed it? Like, where did this happen?
This happened on the Dark Horse podcast, and there was this study in India where they gave people vitamin D, and also just having a better immune system to fight COVID is really helpful. So you can just logic that out.
Vitamin D.
I think there was a report out there stating that vitamin D protects your lungs, especially against COVID.
So, a couple things. I looked that up just because I was curious. I haven't actually heard that before. And like 50 different articles from reputable sources popped up.
Yeah.
So how is it being... Hold on, wait. So how is it being suppressed?
In the beginning, it was. I think they stopped because it was too obvious, but...
I mean, this one right here, let me read what this one says. Hold on.
Hill. This is just one.
You've already died on this hill, my friend, so let me read this one, okay? Background. Vitamin D has a role, but the effect of therapeutic vitamin D supplementation in SARS-CoV-2 infection is not known. All right, that's one of them. Let me see if I have another one. Here's one from PubMed. There is no proven treatment options available yet. The anti-inflammatory, antiviral, and immune modular effect of vitamin D could be beneficial. Okay, cool. When did this come out? This was August 2021, so almost a year ago.
If I were to give you the red pill or the blue pill, and you had to take care of your family, which one would you actually take?
Wait, before we go on the red pill, blue pill thing, I want to make this really clear as best I can. You're saying that vitamin D can benefit people in regards to COVID, and that this is being suppressed. First, I thought that COVID was a scam, so I'm not sure how that plays a role. We'll talk about that in a second. Two, I'm looking this up, and I am seeing a shit ton of articles about vitamin D potentially being beneficial for COVID. So that completely blows out the argument that this is somehow being suppressed. And lastly, vitamin D can be... Hold on, wait. This is just my last point real quick. Vitamin D can absolutely be beneficial for some people with COVID. It might not be as beneficial as the vaccine. It might not be you need vitamin D instead of the vaccine. It could be both. They both do different things and play a different role in offering protection. So literally none of this makes sense logically.
Dr. Brett Weinstein from the Dark Horse podcast?
Oh, yeah, I know who he is. He's a quack. Yes. Yep, I know who he is.
Oh, the quack. Okay.
He's a massive quack. Yes. He spread so much misinformation. I don't watch his podcast, but I've heard about the misinformation that he has spread repeatedly.
You heard about him being called quack by mainstream media, and
no, not by mainstream media, by the fact that he is consistently spreading misinformation in regards to vaccines. So when you cite him, that's instantly a red flag.
Papers on his podcast the entire time.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I did not realize that I needed to actually watch the entire podcast before I criticize somebody for claims that they've levied and that have then been debunked. My apologies. I'll do that later. Either way, where is your evidence that vitamin D helps COVID and then is being suppressed because of it? Where's the evidence?
Man, the internet is so much different from 10 months ago. A lot of the stuff I have is now debunked. And that's why I asked you the red pill, blue pill thing. Like, do you want the truth, or do you want to keep reading these scientific articles, the ones you first pull up on Google?
No,
it is hard to find
oh my God.
suppressed information. You have to go to
Then why do I have an article right here where it says lower levels of vitamin D are associated with SARS-CoV-2 infection and mortality in the Indian population from 2020 of November? Did they just forget to suppress this one?
Before the vaccine came out, they were suppressing it. They did it to get more money for the vaccine.
When did the vaccine come out?
I don't even know.
When did the vaccine come out? December 11th. So this was before the vaccine was released. Your point is now null. Do you want to talk about something else?
Okay. Yeah, I have a lot of things to talk about.
Okay. Just let it be known that this was before. This was before the fucking vaccine.
You still have to take care of your
This
family.
was before the vaccine was even out. They have this study here, right here. I can read it on National Library of Medicine.
I have so many more. But
more wrong studies? I don't care.
I'm asking you the red pill and blue. You sound like you would take the blue pill just because it's probably you'll live a happier life if you do.
I don't care about any of this. This is
I
an
watched your
irrelevant
video on
question.
why you said you left the right, and you said you were depressed and all this,
Uh-huh.
and it's 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 depressing knowing the truth about a lot of things. To be honest, it's not a happy life.
It's also depressing to know the truth that you're wrong in this case because you're saying they're
Yo,
suppressing
no,
vitamin D shit, but just to save the
no.
vaccine. This is a study that came out before the vaccine, and it's in the National Library of Medicine, a very reputable source. So I don't know what your point is in regards to this. This is the problem with conspiracism. It's never actually like borne out at all.
I got many other points. Um, let's see.
All right, well, I just found another study, too, by the way, of Frontiers in Public Health, a basic review of the preliminary evidence that COVID-19 risk and severity is increased in vitamin D deficiency from September 2020, also before the vaccine.
The
So,
FDA stops mail
I mean, you
packages.
realize you're validating his other point, right?
how?
I mean, I'm telling you that the internet changed since like 10 months ago. Like a lot
I
of the
don't care
stuff
about
that
the internet changing. I don't believe you. I'm sorry. You've been proven wrong in that regard.
what
I
about
want
the big
realist.
Well, it does.
But
Wait,
do you
what do you
not know
mean?
about big tech censorship?
I want to know why
Hun-
reasonable realist thinks that I am proving Alpha's point. Please.
You said
Well,
it's
I'm saying that you pulled up studies about the vitamin D deficiency thing, which is one of the other things that he was talking about, and that was one of the points he was making is that vitamin D is like I'm not gonna make any claims about vitamin D because I don't necessarily know what effect it has on anything, but that was his other point that he was bringing out. He was saying that vitamin D is helpful, and so when you're bringing up all of these studies supporting his claim, you're essentially validating what he was saying.
No, because I'm not trying to disprove the claim that vitamin D deficiency can increase your risk for COVID. That claim actually seems pretty borne out by the data. The thing that I don't know if you heard what I said earlier, vitamin D can play a role in lowering your likelihood of getting the virus, just like the vaccine can. The vaccine lowers your likelihood.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
The
yeah.
vaccine
So I
lowers
misheard you,
more
my
of your
bad.
likelihood. It
so
lowers your
the
likelihood
logic
at a
of
higher rate. But if you take vitamin D and also take the vaccine, cool, fucking go for it. Of course, do what you can to beef up your immune system. Obviously, the point that I was disproving was that this was being suppressed. And when I can Google this and find multiple studies that came out before the vaccine where they are saying vitamin D can help, there's no evidence of suppression. So therefore, your point makes no sense. That was what I was trying to actually disprove.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I just misheard you. I thought you were trying to disprove his point about the
you,
vitamin D.
Hunter, do you not know about the suppression on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook
We're not pivoting to
on
suppression. We're
YouTubers?
staying on the vaccine point,
No,
and now it's
it's
reasonable
a valid
realist's
point.
turn to give
Oh,
his
because
argument
why?
about mandates being coercive.
Oh, okay. All right. So let me see. Just give me 1 second. I have a couple articles pulled up.
You see, Bill Gates turned $10 billion into $200 billion from vaccine investments, and then him boasting about it, how it's a 20 to 1 return.
I don't care.
Okay,
Again.
Okay. So
200
Hunter.
billion is a lot.
So it's
Morph at
not
Twitch,
just
you're getting banned, by the way, buddy. That's my
What?
Karen move right there. Sorry, I was talking to somebody in chat. Go ahead, realist.
so it's not just about it being coercive because that's one thing that I think is negative about it. But another thing that I think is negative about it is it's also coercion that most people do not approve of. So I have an article from Monmouth University, and this is actually from March 28th, 2022. So not all that long ago, which says 1 second. Um, Yeah, so at the same time, support for requiring people to show proof of vaccination in order to work in an office or around people has held steady, 44% now and 43% in January. So not even half of Americans support even implementing vaccine mandates, at least in that way. And so it's not only coercion, but it's coercion that not even half of Americans support.
Well, I mean,
So it's
it
like
would depend, I guess, if it's
if we're
the.
talking about a government that's supposed to be representing its citizens, in regards to this, it doesn't seem like most people are on the side of mandates.
Well, I mean, I honestly am reading the opposite here. I looked this up because I knew where you were going with this, and it seems that a poll conducted on January 13th of this year, 2020, found that 56% of respondents believe employers should require COVID vaccines, while 33% are opposed. So I guess
Okay,
well,
so,
hold on,
but,
wait. I'm not. Hold on. That's
okay.
your study could be correct also. It's fine.
I
The
just
question
wanted to say
here
one
is
thing
not
because
is about whether or not we're talking about government mandates, so the states mandating vaccines, or if we're talking about employers mandating vaccines. These are also two different things, and I'm not aware of, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm genuinely not aware of any state that has mandated vaccines just across the board.
Yeah. So I wanted to say one thing about the article. So yours was from January. So this one that I'm pulling up is from March. So it's actually more recent and probably a little bit more accurate on this
March of
issue.
2020 or
No,
2022?
2022.
Oh, okay. I
So
thought
like
for some reason I thought you said
this is a very
2020. My bad.
recent. I can send it to you if you want, just in the Discord chat.
I believe you. It's fine. Was it in regards to employers or states?
Let me see. Okay, so it says what it says. Here's the exact paragraph. Let me actually reread this because it has a little bit of information beforehand also. So it says more than 3 in 4 Americans endorse the CDC relaxing its face mask and social distancing recommendation in areas with low COVID rates. Just 34% of the public supports instituting or reinstituting face mask and social distancing guidelines in their state at the current time, which is down significantly from 52% in January. At the same time, support for requiring people to show proof of vaccination in order to work in an office or around people has held steady, 44% now and 43% in January. So it's saying even in January, which is when your article was from, it's supposedly saying that less than half of Americans even supported vaccine mandates in the first place.
Wait,
And so
wasn't
it's
that
up
talking about? It was only talking about showing proof of vaccine in the workplace. It doesn't sound like there was anything there about the vaccine other than that. They said they were like against face masks or whatever. And yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If you're in an area with low COVID rates, you probably wouldn't be that big of a fan of face masks still. But again, why is that? It's because more people got the vaccine. It's because COVID rates are going down because more people are vaccinated.
So wait, but in a workplace, it's a workplace. It's mandated. That's talking about it being mandated for the workplace in terms of the vaccine.
Well, then it's
So
the
people are
government
opposed
doing
to it being
or-
mandated in the workplace.
But then it's the workplace doing the mandating. It's not the state doing the mandating. So then those are.
Oh, okay. I guess I never said it was. So I guess that was a distinction that I didn't make.
Well, I'm
But,
I'm not even trying. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to like get you here. I'm genuinely trying to like understand. If
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
talking about this happening in the private sector versus the government, then yeah, the way in which we go about assessing that's going to be different. For example, the government cannot say or cannot suppress my speech, but in the office, I can have my speech suppressed. Because when you're on private property, working in the private sector, they have more control over ways in which you conduct yourself. So if the poll is most people are okay with, was it 44% actually that wanted vaccine proof?
so it says 44% now and 43% in January.
So it went up.
It went up by 1% though. It's still less than half of the population.
Okay, then I don't know what. I guess I don't know what the point is you're trying to make. Like, if the population or some people don't support that, then that's tough. Like, it's about whether or not the company has the right to do so in this case.
It's not just that some people don't support it. It's that the majority of people do not support it. So if the government, if you have somebody implementing something, if you have a government that's supposed to represent its citizens and it pushes policies that citizens do not approve of, then I would say that's a negative thing.
No, actually, it's not about the majority of Americans who are just like chilling and have this opinion. What we're talking about in regards to democracy is we're talking about majority votes. We're talking about making sure that people have their voice heard when voting for their elected representatives. But just if you have a poll that shows people...
That's a different discussion.
Just if you have a poll that shows people don't like this thing, doesn't mean that then doing that thing is inherently bad. Unless, I'm going to do it, I'm going to ask you, do you think that in, the 1950s, when Americans were polled and most of them said, nah, I don't think black people should be among white people, that we shouldn't have done away with that? It doesn't matter what their opinion is. It matters.
Was that most people? Did most people say that?
It doesn't.
That we shouldn't do away with slavery?
Wait.
Because
I'm not giving you an actual historical fact here. It doesn't matter.
This feels like a total pivot, by the way.
You don't. I'm actually I'm struggling here, my friend, to explain this to you. when you say that the majority of Americans do not support something, so doesn't that make it bad to then try and enforce that thing? The principle of your statement is that enforcing something against the will of the people in regards to the popular opinion is bad. That is the principle of your argument. So when you take that principle of an argument and apply it to something else, like whites living amongst black people, and you test that principle there, that helps you snuff out whether or not the logic is sound. So, for example, you couldn't say the majority of Americans, the popular opinion is against vaccine mandates, therefore it's bad to put vaccine mandates in, and then out the other side of your mouth say, well, who cares if the majority of Americans say weren't in favor of mixing white and black people? You have to be consistent.
Okay, so my issue is that those are completely different situations, and I've noticed this a lot in this debate and in the last debate that we had, where you'll take this extreme, completely different position, and you'll try to act like it's some kind of comparison or something, or like you're trying to pull up an analogy.
It's that when you put it into a situation that's not as optically appealing, you realize that logic doesn't really hold up.
Listen, man, I'm not racist. I love black people. Like, what do you want me to say, dude? Like, you try to bring up this card. It's like you're trying to play the racism card or something. It's like, okay, let's make this comparison, this vague analogy of like segregation or something.
I genuinely feel really sorry for you, man. I think that you need to like have us like, you're so, the lack of cognitive dissonance here, or the amount of cognitive dissonance here, is insane. Like, you don't even understand like a logical progression of your own argument.
Logical progression of my art. It's not a logical progression. It's a replacement. You're replacing my argument with some crazy analogy.
It's not a crazy analogy. I'm pretty sure there were times where white people would not have actually been in favor of mixing black people.
So what if there's a little bit of nuance to it? What if certain situations call for... Okay, let me figure out a way to word this, right? So
I feel like I could word this for you and just like write it down and help you understand this, because I'm in pain right now. Physical pain.
I'm saying that it depends on the situation partially. And when you're forcing somebody to do something like take a vaccine,
that's not how a principle works.
That's a different situation than oppressing a race of people.
No, that's the problem though, is if you are then applying that arbitrarily, what we have is...
But who said we had to apply it arbitrarily? Why can't we go on a case-by-case basis? I never said that.
Well, then how do you judge when we should appeal to popular opinion versus not?
Dude, I don't know, dude. You have to look at the situation.
So it comes down to, do you like it or do you not like it?
Nuance here.
It comes down to, do you like it or do you not like it? You personally don't like the idea of oppressing black people because it's not, or because it's more popular to do so. But simultaneously, you do like not mandating the vaccine because that's more popular.
It's not the same as violating bodily autonomy. I feel like that should be addressed in a completely different way because it's a completely different discussion.
Segregation and slavery and mixing the races was to a degree about bodily autonomy also.
No, it was
that actually
bad.
strengthens my argument.
I'm not saying it wasn't bad. It was very bad. I don't think we should have ever had slavery or, oppression or any of those things in place.
I'm not asking... okay.
But it feels like you're trying to go in that direction. I'm not saying you have gone there yet, but it feels like you're trying to tilt the conversation.
No, I'm not. I don't. I'm out. You okay? I have nothing to say.
Okay.
I can see the mandates actually working and being good for society under a different virus. Like I said, I don't believe in this one. I mean, I don't believe. I think it's a scam. But I do see Hunter's. I think Hunter's right here.
Well, the thing is that if you're making a principled argument, then it needs to be able to hold up to some level of a hypothetical or in another situation, or else it's not actually a principle. Then it's just an opinion you have about this specific thing. When it comes to the vaccines, your opinion is, well, more Americans aren't in favor of it, so I guess we just shouldn't mandate it. But when we talk about other things, where more Americans may have been in favor of something that we now recognize as being bad, you don't apply that standard, meaning it's not a principle.
Let me rephrase what I was saying, right? I think that this is a factor that should be taken into account. I think the number of Americans that are supporting something, I think that should be considered when you're mandating or when you're coming up with certain policies, right? So I think you need to take it on a case-to-case basis. I wouldn't just say blanket, this applies to every scenario like throughout the entirety of history. I would never say that because I think it should be handled on a case-to-case basis. I just think this is a factor that should be taken into consideration.
Okay, but even so, like, I mean, I'm not trying to get like debate bro mode or whatever, but I mean, you could argue that that's actually a logical fallacy. The argument from ad populism.
Okay. Enlighten me.
An ad populism fallacy. Let me look it up. So I have the specific definition
You mean,
for
wait, do you mean ad hominem or?
No.
Ad...
Argument. Okay, here we go. Argument ad populum. In argumentation theory, an argument ad populum is a fallacious argument which is based on claiming a truth or affirming something is good because the majority thinks so.
Whoa, but that's I just clarified. I thought I just clarified my position on that. I said it should be a factor that's taken into consideration. I didn't say that should be the sole deciding factor.
Why should I take that
every
into a
situation.
consideration? Why does that
Because
matter?
the government is supposed to represent its constituents.
Yes, and it's also supposed to represent its constituents in the face of other constituents who are trying to harm constituents. If we're talking about whether or not you should mandate a vaccine,
we're talking about the more than half.
Wait, we're
More
talking
than
about
half
a
of
mandate of
the
a
US.
vaccine which does way more benefits than harm. It helps society. It helps us
but
move
we're not
on.
talking. We're
Second
not
of all,
talking about whether it does benefits or harm.
We're not even talking about
whether or
government.
not it should be mandated.
Wait, I just addressed your argument, even though it has nothing to do with the actual point you made before. We're not talking about government. Government, you can say government represents the people. The poll you read me was in regards to employers.
Wait, hold on one sec.
It was 44% didn't want or did want employers to enforce proof of vaccination.
Okay. So what do you think about the there was a federal mandate, right, for businesses over 100, like with 100 personnel or over, where they had to require weekly testing or vaccination?
Uh-huh.
Wasn't that so? That was
struck down.
Okay.
I mean, I was kind of in favor of it, but then upon reading the research as to, or the opinion that the court came to, I knew right off the bat, and you can literally find videos of me saying it, that I knew this was a legal gray area. I knew that. I knew it would be tough to, like, I was in favor of it, yeah, because I thought obviously it does more benefits to have as many people as possible vaccinated, but I also knew it was in a legal gray area, and it was kind of up in the air on whether or not that would actually pass.
Okay. So did something in particular like change your mind about it, or did you still support it? You just didn't know you just felt like they probably wouldn't be able to enforce it, or?
Well, I mean, in principle, again, I supported it because I principally support vaccine mandates. But I also recognize that practically getting something like that passed was a long shot because it was in a legal gray area. They had some legal justification in regards to OSHA, but OSHA had never done something or regulated businesses to that same extent. So I knew that it was it's a legal gray area. So I said it's going to be up to the courts ultimately.
Okay. Yeah. I don't have anything else to say on that.
So why should we not mandate vaccines, or why should employers not mandate vaccines?
If you guys,
well, hold on. While you can think about that. Go ahead, Alpha. Sorry, you haven't talked in a minute.
you guys know the difference between traditional and the new mRNA vaccines?
Yes, the mRNA vaccines are better.
Okay, but what's the function? What does it do?
The mRNA releases a, if I'm remembering correctly, it's something to do with I want to say it's a cell. I would have to look it up again. I used to know this. I haven't had this comment in a while.
It's using a little piece of fat lipid nanoparticle with a RNA strand into it. It slips into your cell and it executes their code. You gave them root access to your cell for them to produce a spike protein. I don't know about that. I don't know what the patents say about that, but
okay, so yeah, I looked it up
very,
just to
very
refresh.
concerning.
mRNA vaccines use mRNA created in a laboratory to teach our cells how to make a protein, or even just a piece of a protein hold on a minute, that triggers an immune response inside our bodies. That immune response, which produces antibodies, is what helps protect us from getting sick from that germ in the future.
Okay. I don't want to talk about the immune response because Traditional vaccines, they just inject the pathogen to produce an immune response.
And those are way
They-
less effective and come with a lot more problems. Yeah.
Um, sure. Okay. The mRNA vaccines, remember this. It slips into your cells and it executes the RNA code, the little proteins that they, it executes it to create the pathogen.
No, it doesn't ever put a dead version of the virus in you or the pathogen or whatever.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you create the pathogen. Your cell creates it to produce an immune response.
It goes in and teaches your body, yes, how to make a spike protein, which is like a replication of the pathogen so that it knows how to protect yourself. Or protect itself, excuse me.
Have you seen the patents? Like the small label reading, terms of service for these vaccines?
No? Do you want to
Scary
enlighten me?
shit, man. I'm like, it's really scary when you look into it. Like,
I mean, a
So-
second ago you're like, it's putting code inside of you. Like, you're basically
it's
trying to
RNA.
smuggle.
Not
Or-
exactly
it's
what
RNA.
he said.
it's executing the RNA. Yes, it's like you're executing the RNA code.
Wait, yes.
fold
It goes
proteins,
in and it teaches your
create a
body how to
spike
make a
protein.
spike protein so that you have good immune response. Yeah.
You gave them root access to your cells.
You did not give them access to your cells any more than any
You gave them
vaccine
root
or medicine
access
has
to your
access.
cells to execute that, right? I just want you to understand that.
Most vaccines contain a weakened or dead bacteria or virus. However, scientists have developed a new type of vaccine that uses a molecule called messenger RNA, mRNA, rather than part of an actual bacteria or virus. Messenger RNA is a type of RNA that is necessary for protein production. In cells, mRNA uses the information in genes to create a blueprint for making proteins. Once cells finish making a protein, they quickly break down the mRNA from vaccines, does not enter the nucleus, and does not alter DNA.
Yeah, Arbutus Biopharma Corporation and Acuitas, they own the patent for the mRNA vaccine. It's an industry-leading hepatitis B therapeutic solutions company.
Before you get to that, are you going to address what I said, though? Like, yeah, of course, the medicine is supposed to teach your body how to build up an immune response. That's the point of a vaccine.
Teaching your body, that's a little bit different. When you inject a pathogen, that's teaching your body because it's like trying to break down the pathogen and creating enzymes to fight against it later on.
No. In this regard, instead of putting a pathogen inside of you, you are putting in a protein that tells your body how to make a spike protein. That's a safer way.
No, it's not, because you're relying on the pharmaceutical companies that the protein, the RNA strand, says what they say it says.
So you're
How
going
do you know
conspiracy
that-
route. Okay, that's fine. It's
No,
just
that's honestly a concern.
He's just saying that it depends on how much you trust the pharmaceutical companies.
you don't need to trust the pharmaceutical companies to see the data worldwide, which indicates that this vaccine is effective.
Oh yeah? Okay, hold up. I know I watched 4 of your anti-vaxxer interviews, by the way, yesterday. I like some of them, not most of them. On the anti-vaxxer side, I didn't like the arguments they presented, but one of them mentioned that Pfizer wanted 55 years to release their vaccine trial data to the public. The agency this week told a court it had found about 329,000 pages responsive information, because they did a Freedom of Information Act to get that.
Okay.
And right, they took 10 weeks to approve those 329,000 pages, but they want 55 years to release it to the public. So they wanted to release 500 pages each month because they said it's too much data, giving it until 2076 to complete the request, when FDA just took more than 10 weeks by contrast.
So what's the point you're making?
They're hiding stuff from us
How do you know that?
because they wanted 55 years to release these pages when it took the FDA only 10 weeks, which
They
is
gave
like
a reason for that,
3
right?
months.
Like, I agree the 50
Yeah,
years thing
They
sounds a
said
little
it's
bit
too much for
ridiculous,
them
but
to look over. They said it's too many pages for them to look
there's
over.
a
That was the reason.
massive amount of data. Yes, a huge amount. For
Oh,
them to
yeah?
go through and
Why did it
sort
take
that.
FDA 3 months to go over all that data? It's 300,000 pages.
How many pages is it in total? Do we know? Because you
I
realize
think
that like they're not. Something's going on with my chat there. You realize that the FDA has like issues with like even being over or excuse me understaffed, right?
yeah. So why did it take them 10 weeks to approve it? When they
Was the
won't give it back
300 wait, I'm trying to understand. Was the 360,000 pages that they took 10 weeks to release, was that the entirety
300.
of it?
No, I think the 329,000 pages, that was requested from a Freedom of Information Act. So there might be even more. Um, yeah, there might be more pages, but it does not explain why the FDA took 10 weeks to review it and approve it for the public, and they won't release it to the public for more than 55 years later.
Well, they did actually end up releasing some of it to the public now.
Yeah. I think they got hacked. I'm not sure if they got hacked.
I don't think they got hacked. It says that the 1967 law requires federal agencies to respond to information requests within 20
Yeah, they
business
tried to sue them.
days.
That's what happened.
Okay, here we go. Justice Department lawyers representing the FDA note in court papers that the plaintiffs are seeking a huge amount of vaccine-related material, about 330,000 pages. All right, let's see. The plaintiffs, a group of more than 30 professors and scientists from universities including Yale, Harvard, UCLA, and Brown, filed suit in September seeking expedited access to the records. They say that releasing the information could help. The FDA can't simply turn the documents over wholesale. The records must be reviewed to redact confidential business and trade secret information of Pfizer or biotech and personal privacy information of patients who participated in clinical trials. That makes sense. The FDA proposes releasing 500 pages per month on a rolling basis, noting that the branch would handle the review. Noting that the branch that would handle the review has only 10 employees and is currently processing about 400 other requests. So what you're doing right now is the same thing that anti-vaxxers and conspiracy theorists in general do, which is weaponizing your own ignorance. You don't know, I don't know, every reason why they don't want to release these papers. I don't know what they're redacting. But what you're doing is you're saying, I don't know, therefore I actually do know, and it's something scary and bad and evil and conniving. What I'm saying is, we don't totally know, but the reason they gave us actually makes sense, not to mention 10 employees, that is a claim that can be verified. That can be proven empirically. Redacting information and redacting information, privacy, respecting the privacy of people that participated in clinical trials, it's important to redact that. Yeah.
Bro, why are you using Google? Come on.
I'm not using. Wait, I'm reading an article about it, so I knew that I was caught up to speed. Why are you trying to shame me for using Google?
Because they censor information. They remove websites.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to talk about big tech censorship.
We're not talking about big tech censorship. I'm sorry.
You know it's real, right? It's real.
Everything you've said thus far has been blatantly false, patently false, provably false.
You want me to bring up patents? Okay, I got you.
No, we're not. I don't know how much longer we need to talk about this. Realist, why don't you give me a little rundown as to why you think the employers should not mandate vaccines, and then we'll see where the convo goes from there, because I'm probably going to end soon, so I don't kill myself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I could do to I don't know what I could do to convince you, like, beyond what I've already said. Just I don't agree with people being forced to get vaccines. So
what do you think that the employer does have a right to force people to do?
I would have to really seriously consider that. But I think bodily autonomy, I think, is a very important thing, and I don't think people should be forced to put something in their body if that's not something that they're interested in doing personally.
Okay, well, what if they are being asked or even mandated to put something in their body to respect the bodily autonomy of others? Because other people have bodily autonomy to not get sick.
It's still not something I agree with. Like, I really don't know how else to put it. I just don't think people should be forced to take it if they don't want to.
Yeah, but okay, that's fine. You're obviously allowed to have whatever opinion you want, but you must recognize that is purely just an opinion. That has no. That's not an argument.
I'm not saying no. It is an opinion, and it's my opinion. It's how I feel about this.
But it's
and
not an argument.
Listen, it's the majority of people in the U.S. are opposed to vaccine mandates, according to this study at least. I don't know if there have been newer studies on this that could disprove me or not. It's not something that a lot of people are in favor of. It doesn't seem to be super popular, and it's something that I'm just uncomfortable with it. I think it violates bodily autonomy, and I think people should be allowed to decide.
Yeah, but you're giving me feels arguments right now. Like, I understand that it's uncomfortable. Wait, I just want to know, genuinely, I don't think you would accept my argument if I was saying, dude, we should just mandate vaccines, okay? It makes me uncomfortable when people aren't vaccinated. You would say, shut up, Hunter. That doesn't make sense. You need to actually make an argument as to why you think this.
Because you're talking about something, when you're getting a vaccine, you're talking about something that's guaranteed. That's a guaranteed action. There are so many other factors that go into, like, reasons somebody potentially gets sick or doesn't get sick. So that's not like an objective or something that definitely, when you get a vaccine, you're getting a vaccine. You're injecting something into your body, and that's a guarantee that that's going to happen. As opposed to, something could potentially happen to somebody somewhere if you don't get the vaccine. I think it's a much stronger argument that we just shouldn't mandate them.
So I guess we can move briefly to the bodily autonomy thing entirely, because I understand that the bodily autonomy seems to be the main thing that you're hinging on. But then I guess we'd kind of take the conversation again to, when does an employer have a right to mandate something, even if that mandate does have some kind of interaction or interference with bodily autonomy? And my example there would be, why is it bad or wrong or a violation of bodily autonomy, and that therefore immoral, for the employer to say, you got to get vaccinated, but not to say, I'm violating your bodily autonomy to sit where you want to sit. You need to move your body into this room right now. You need to put your body on this chair, and you must use your body to listen to this seminar on sexual harassment. That is necessary for you to work at this company. That violates bodily autonomy in a way.
So last time I used the word permanent, and I don't think that was a very good word to use, because I think that got a lot of people really confused about my argument. So I wouldn't say permanent, but I would say, how do you say, like, there are different levels to things in terms of, like, getting a vaccine, like, as opposed to sitting in a chair somewhere, like, that would be like level 1, and then, like, getting a vaccine would be like level 50. There's a different. That's why I was trying to find a substitute for the word permanence, because I feel like that was confusing a lot of people. But I was saying last time that there were levels of permanence to things. So you have certain actions that you could take that are less permanent than other actions, or that have less of an effect. So, like, sitting in a chair isn't going to have much of an effect on you, but getting a vaccine might.
Sitting on the chair could have effects on you. What if you?
What if you don't want?
Wait. What if you don't want to go to that seminar? You find it to be insulting, because how dare the company assume that you as a man are somehow more prone to sexual harassment? And the polls show that the majority of people don't want to do that thing.
I think you're doing the same thing that I just talked about like 15 minutes ago, where you're taking this analogy that spins the conversation off in this entirely different direction.
All right. Yep.
I don't really think very useful.
Dude, your name should not be the reasonable realist. It should be like,
I don't think
it should be the delusional delusionist
I don't
or
think
something.
It's crazy to make I think it's crazy to make these types of analogies when and if you were admitting, in all honesty, if you were being honest in this conversation, you would say that there's a big difference between sitting in a chair and getting a vaccine.
We already had this conversation last time, and you couldn't explain to me what that big difference was or why it was so relevant.
What do you mean what the big difference is?
All right, I'm sorry, bro. I have super macho. No, it's just, all right,
dude,
come on.
That's a position that you can change at any time. I could get up from this chair right at this second. I could go, like, walk out the door. Right? That's different than injecting something into your bloodstream.
What you're saying is the bodily autonomy thing is arbitrary, which is why it's a shit argument. So this is just, listen, I've self-harmed long enough now on stream, okay? I can't do it anymore. We have super macho alpha, super macho beta over here. And then the reasonable realist, I'm sorry, should be the unreasonable delusionist. Because what you're saying right now, it has no bearing in reality. You're mad at me for bringing up analogies that flesh out your fucking logic.
Shit, dude, your analogies fucking suck.
When you can't even operate on or operate or process very simple analogies to test your logic, then you shouldn't be having this conversation.
It's a completely different fucking... The analogies that you make are shit. They don't work because they're completely different.
That's not how it works.
They don't mirror the situation that I'm discussing in any way whatsoever.
I would rather have my analogies be shit than my entire foundation be shit.
Okay.
It's all based on personal feelings and an arbitrary line that apparently you get to draw. You want to tell? No, it's just,
it is because you have a very strong opinion about this. Clearly,
my opinion's based on reality. Yours is based on personal fifis, and if anything, it sounds like you just want to basically make the line up yourself. That sounds pretty fucking authoritarian to me.
You know, you're basically saying my opinion is right, or not my opinion. You're saying your opinion is right.
Yes. Because I have demonstrated that my opinion is based... I didn't say objectively correct.
You can bring up evidence to support an opinion, but that doesn't make the opinion correct.
I know. It doesn't make it objectively correct, but if you bring enough evidence, then it makes that opinion reasonable to believe. And that is what I've done throughout this conversation, whereas you gave nothing but, well, it makes me uncomfy.
Well, no. I brought up some other things. I brought up the more than half of the people in the U.S. don't support vaccine mandates.
And then when fleshed out, that made no fucking sense. So, listen, I appreciate the
convo. Rehash it. I think
we can rehash this conversation in like several. In several months, realist, we can rehash this conversation. You need to look up shit. You need to understand why your arguments are so flawed here.
Can we let Super Macho talk?
I thought we were done. But fine. Super Macho, go ahead.
All right. Peter Daszak said this in 2015. He's Anthony Fauci's lawyer. All right? I'm going to quote him. We need to increase the need for medical countermeasures such as...
Bye. All right. That was so painful. I am actually just floored. Holy shit. I've tried so hard to get through to that guy. He just doesn't fucking understand. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you get notified when I drop a new video.